Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the East Whiteland Township May 13th, 2026 Board of Supervisors meeting. If we could please rise and read the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag. Thank you. To familiarize everyone in the audience with our panel up here tonight is to my far right is Supervisor Clinton Smith. Immediately to my right is Vice Chair Peter Fixler. To my left is Bernadette Kearney, our solicitor, and next to her is Steve Brown, our manager. Would like to start off with a moment of silence for a former 25-year employee of East Whiteland Township, Dolores Welch. And after that, I would like to ask Don to say a few words who knew Dolores. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to say that I'm going to pretty much read what was in the obituary because it truly was like right on, right on. Dolores proudly served East Whiteland Township for 25 years as an assistant to the building inspector, playing a vital role in supporting the township's growth and ensuring its residents were met with care, clarity, and dignity. I took this, like I said, because she was a kind soul, and those of us that were privileged to know her will feel, she'll be missed by all of us. So thank you for taking a moment of silence for her.
Thank you, Donna. Moving into the board briefings, we had executive sessions on May 13th, 2026, in which we talked about personnel, legal, and real estate issues. And next up is Catherine, if you can give us some new positive information on grants and awards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, so I have one update for this evening. The township's been advised by both Fetterman and McCormick's offices that the township's made it to what's considered to be the final round on the congressionally directed spending applications. This is for the new police building. And so what's currently proposed before the legislature is a $1.75 million award potentially to the township. If you remember, earlier this year, the township was awarded a similar vehicle of funds through Houlihan's office with the Route 30 project. So this would follow a similar trajectory and is very much tied to if and when that legislation passes. So it's good news for us that we're in the final round, and I'll keep the board posted. And then I have a further grant update a little bit further down on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And Parks and Rec updates from Larry. Okay. So let me know when he's back available. So we'll jump to board motions and resolutions, and I'll go back again to Catherine to give us an update on the curative amendment situation.
Thank you. So at the April 27th special meeting of the Board of Supervisors, the board declared the zoning ordinance invalid as it pertains to data centers and power generation in all zoning districts. And so out of that meeting, the board directed staff to put a call out for interested individuals from the public to submit letters of interest to participate in the ordinance writing process. along with township staff and professionals. 5 individuals submitted letters of interest, which have been provided to and reviewed by the board. And so if the board is so inclined to have further discussion on that and potentially name some individuals for that working group.
So upon further discussion and reviewing everything, we've made a determination that we would like to select 3 residents to the curative working group. And so I would like to make a motion to name the following individuals to assist the staff and the township professionals in writing the zoning ordinance text as it pertains to data centers and energy generation. In no particular order, Tony Giano, I'm killing your name, sorry. Carl Aberson, and Steve Mickelson. And could I have a second?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And passes. So congratulations. So Larry is back. Larry, if you want to give us a Park and Rec update?
Yeah, hello. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry about the late join, figuring out this new Zoom situation. But yeah, we're in the thick of our busy season for Parks and Rec. We started off the last week with our kind of Opening America 250 event celebration in partnership with WHYY. We premiered Ken Burns' new documentary, American Revolution, and we had the Lenape Brass Band play and a public reading of the Declaration of Independence. It was a really nice event, and a huge thank you for everybody who helped make that happen. Coming up next week, a week from today actually, is our first summer concert series. Our Chill on the Hill returns with what I think is our best lineup yet. I'll say that every year because it's true. We have local Philadelphia and surrounding suburb acts Tuck In and John Fay with that show. It's going to be fantastic. And then a few weeks after that, we have our first ever Battle of the Bands event. As a musician myself, Battle of the Bands was very near and dear to my heart, really helped kind of solidify me wanting to perform. And I wanted to work with some of our local music groups, Beams Music and Taylor's Music Store, to help maybe get that to happen for some of our younger bands in the area. So we are still accepting registrations for bands in the area if they are wishing to perform. Looking a bit further down the line, we have Shakespeare in the Park coming back. You'll see that on the consent agenda later. Last year was our first time doing it. It was a great success having them back this summer in late July 24th. And then a little bit further down the line, we have our Phillies Baseball Academy. They will be on the Great Valley Little League field, and that's going to be the week of August 10th. Other than a lot of this programming stuff going on, we do have a lot of projects in the works as well, specifically Backton Hill Phase 2, as we're calling it, which is going to see a few additions to the park, namely a bathroom and restroom facility, and maybe some ancillary meadow work and structures around the trail. And then finally, of course, the Ridley Springs Master Planning Committee is hard at work on all of the future projects and imaginations and thinking for Ridley Springs Farm, our newest property. And that's Parks and Rec in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Moving on, I'll ask Steve Brown to lead us through the consent decree for Bishop 2.
Thank you, Scott. The DEP published a draft consent decree between the department, the Whitaker Corporation, Johnson Matthey, Marsigalia, I believe USA, and Constitution Drive Partners, implementing the funding implementing and funding the Hazardous Sites Cleanup Act remedial response at the Bishop Tube Hiska site. There's a 60-day public comment period that began on March 14th, and it ends tomorrow, May 14th. The board is considering comments this evening that the public may make. We did receive comments from some of the residents, and those comments have been provided to the board. The board also has memorandum from our consultant, Integral Consulting. We have Tony Finding and Jill Hall here to answer questions. They can walk you through their memo if the board would like to hear that. And you have other documents in your board packet. I'll just say that probably the key thing in the consent decree is it's different in at least one way than our preliminary plan approval. Our preliminary plan approval conditions are more stringent than at least this one portion of the consent decree, and it has to do with the timing of allowing the developer to begin improvements on the site for the development. Again, our conditions are more stringent, requiring remediation of the site, whereas the DEP's consent decree would allow some partial limited improvements to go onto the site before a complete remediation. That's my layman's view of it. Tony and Jill can help me if I misspoke, but I think that's probably the most important comment we want to make to the DEP, is that making sure that they acknowledge our conditions stand and they can't supersede them. So again, the intent tonight is to hear from the public. I do think it's a good idea for maybe Tony to run through their comments real fast, and then the board can decide what we pass on to the state tomorrow, because that's the deadline.
You're up, Tony.
Tony? Yeah, you can get up the mic.
Well, like what Steve said, that the biggest comment is about the land development plan that the township has approved, that it does not supersede that, but what I'll do is I'll just go through our comments or possible questions that we have that we'd like to generate on behalf of the township. So the first one's in reference to the long-term monitoring and post-remedial oversight. Our comment that we'd like to submit would be, how will long-term groundwater and vapor intrusion monitoring results be communicated to the township after DEP issues a certification of completion? Will routine post-remedial monitoring summaries continue to be provided to East Whiteland Township? Another comment we have are trigger points for township notification beyond the monthly reports that the DEP intends to submit. Our comment is, will DEP provide direct notice to the township in the event of a declaration of default, B, a determination that trust funds may be insufficient, or C, a proposed modification to the statement of decision? A third comment we have is in terms of the sequencing of events with residential redevelopment. That comment is, please confirm that nothing in the consent decree is intended to supersede or limit East Whiteland Township's land development approval authority, building, permitting, or occupancy determinations under local ordinances, including conditions imposed through the township's preliminary and final land development plan approvals. Further, please clarify how DEP anticipates coordinating with the township where redevelopment sequencing under the consent decree may differ from or evolve beyond the sequencing assumptions reflected in prior township approvals. Next comment is related to unknown contamination and the PFAS scope. Our comment is if PFAS or other contaminants of concern are identified later and outside the scope of time frame of the data cap pre-design investigation, how does DEP anticipate addressing long-term response obligations, and will the township be consulted? Next comments related to off-site impacts and nearby properties. The issue is, groundwater contamination has historically migrated off-site. So our comment is, will the DEP continue to evaluate and disclose any off-site groundwater impacts identified during OU2 activities, which is the groundwater issue, including potential implications for nearby private wells or surface waters within East Whiteland Township? What liability protection, if any, does a consent decree provide to the settling parties for off-site damages or future discovery of contamination, and could that affect future claims by private parties or the township? And our final question that we have, the issue we saw, reports are submitted electronically, but ease of public access supports transparency and community trust. So our question is, the township encourages DEP to maintain an easily accessible public repository for key reports and approvals related to the Bishop Tube site, similar to the existing administrative record. So those are the comments that we provided to you.
Okay. Tony, I just have a quick question. Just with regard, you brought up one of your comments was related to discontinuation or defaulting or determining that funds may be insufficient. With regard to that, as costs rise, as we're seeing currently, right? A couple years from now, is there a scheduled reevaluation of funding at 24 months, 48 months from now to make sure that the amount that they're putting up will be sufficient for the residents, and just to make sure that we're not footing the bill for the remainder if their funds end up going into default because of the rising cost of remediation of that type of site, or if additional chemicals are found to where the remediation becomes even more extensive.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at Jill too, because she was helping me out a lot with this, going through everything. But it is our understanding that that goes back to the DEP at that point, that they will be covering those costs.
Okay.
Anything above and beyond.
Did they say that in there? No. And it's all right.
I understand, but based on what we read in there, everything defaults back to the DEP.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Tony.
And Tony, let me, on that same line of thought, was there an additional $1 million set aside?
2.5 million?
I seem to recall there was like an additional overflow excess amount in the event
That
that
was
it's
a
needed.
2.5 million in escrow.
Right, okay, so maybe that would kind of help offset what you're describing.
Yeah, I mean, I
as
think
well.
the cost of stuff's going up drastically.
Well,
the last
yeah,
3
that's-
years, right. I mean,
It's a
2.5
valid
million,
question.
Right.
Yeah, how high
Right.
could
How much
costs
is
go
it?
up?
Right.
Tony, your comments seem very good. I'm just trying to understand, how are they taken? These are your comments to the DEP. How are they going to be taken? Do you know? Obviously, you can't say exactly, but could they be just dismissed out of hand? Could they accept them? How does that
I mean,
exactly work?
I think our comments are very valid for further clarification.
Okay.
You know, please define what you mean by what's in there. And that's what we need is further clarification.
I have some clarification though, because from what I
Kate,
understand.
Kate, you're a little out of turn. Please give us a
But I
second to
think
ask
it's
our
to a
expert.
judge. The judge has to, this is to a judge.
Just give us a second, Kate. We're going to have your time for sure.
Oh, no, I'm saying that it's to a judge, that judge is going to make this decision.
Kate, we will get to your question, okay? Tony, if you could answer. Okay, I'm sorry. That threw me on left. All right. Do you have other questions, Clinton?
I'm good, thank you.
I think I'll defer to the. I know the residents have some very valid questions, and I think I'll defer to them as some of them, as I've read in my packet from some of the residents, follow along the same lines, and if anything, I'll follow up with some of their similar questions.
Okay.
Just to see what you. This is going to be a real trick for you here. They're going to ask questions, and you're going to have to reply.
Yeah,
Taking turns at the microphone.
Remember, we understand the funding to a point where the environmental looking out in terms of, those conditions. So we'll answer to the best we can.
And I hope the participants, the residents, Deb, Barb, that you understand Tony is just our advisor. He doesn't have definitive answers, and he can't really speak for the DEP. He'll do the best he can with the knowledge he has. I hope you guys certainly understand. We're doing the best what we have in that respect.
Does staff have any other comments you'd like to add before I open the mic to the floor? None? All right. So, public comments, if you would, pertaining to this matter. I'm sorry. Bishop 2.
Barbara Arnold, 31 Fonstock Road. Just a couple quick questions. I wanted to ask if you or Tony had taken into account this letter from Delaware Riverkeeper Network to you guys on May 1st. It has a lot of really salient points specifically about how this will affect the township. So if you would like this, if you haven't already seen it. You did? Okay, all right. I wanted to make sure because this is really good. It's very detailed about how it's going to affect us. And then I wanted to know if the comment from the township is going to be perhaps published on the website or something where we, the public, can see how you responded?
Yes, we'll do that.
Okay, great. And as far as the fiscal stuff he was talking about, it's my understanding, one of my friends can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's X amount of monies in that settlement trust fund in the consent decree, but once that money is used up, if Constitution Drive Partners is not finished with the work, then the DEP would then have to continue payments, which means that we, the taxpayers, are paying for it. So that's my understanding. Deb or one of my friends can correct me if I'm wrong about that. So thank you.
Before I start, I wanted to thank Steve for looking into the fact that they're leaving equipment at the end of our road and dragging dirty mud from a contaminated site into a cul-de-sac where children ride their bikes. Okay, they learn to ride in that cul-de-sac. It's the only one in the neighborhood. But thank you, Steve, very much. And your crew for taking care of that immediately. Deb Mobile, 42 Village Way. I stand here before you with a copy of my concerns to submit to the state about their newest sweetheart deal that they are offering to Constitution Drive Partners. Since I sent my concerns in last week, my list has continued to grow, and I'm now up to 3 pages single-spaced. I refer to this as a sweetheart deal because if you are looking for the State Department of Environmental Protection to help you and to protect the citizens of East Whiteland Township, you are living in fantasy land. The state has proposed an agreement which is capricious, vague, arbitrary, and just not enforceable. The state has proposed an agreement that nullifies some of the safety concerns that you tried to put into place in your agreement with constitutional drive partners. So much for good faith negotiating. It is time that you need to say no to constitutional drive partners before it's too late. And I'm referring to the vote that you'll be taking later on this evening. Now, I realize I only get 3 minutes, and I'm probably going to go more like 4, but let me highlight a few more things that made me grind my teeth when I read them. The document uses phrases like conditions such as best efforts and reasonable efforts and not feasible when referring to potential actions taken by constitutional drive partners. It never defines what that means for CDP to achieve those goals. The document is so vague that the state will have little recourse to challenge CDP if a need for court action should arise. Under this agreement, CDP can spend money with no enforceable boundaries or expectations. The document also allows for CDP to use these money for demolition and site preparation. Are these not normal expenses in construction projects? Why are these expenses being paid for out of limited cleanup fund monies? It also allows CDP to use it for legal fees. Why are we, the taxpayers, why are they allowed to use cleanup money, for their lawyers? Okay. There is no provision to seek public input concerning the cleanup stages, which are to be determined as additional testing becomes available. There are no apparent safeguards in place for the local community. The state has asked for weekly reports, but there's no mention of monitoring for the health and safety for the residents of General Warren Village and East Whiteland Township for that matter. The agreement does not seem to identify who's responsible to determine if the residents are at risk. This agreement does not meet the conditions with the CDP agreed to in their township, with the township in their land development application. Assurances that the site would be fully cleaned before any construction begins seems to be contrary to this agreement. In the past, the state has always indicated that approvals for construction are the purview of township and zoning. Now the DEP is entering into an agreement which overrides local authority. CDP is a major stakeholder in this cleanup project. Their objective is to get the work done cheaply so that they can make money on the site. They are about business first, not people. Under this agreement, CDP could easily spend the cleanup monies as quickly as possible and then go to the state and say, well, we did the best we could. Okay. CDP could spend the money on a wide variety of construction-related costs. CDP can blatantly be released of all responsibilities relating to the actual cleanup and to the health and safety of protecting our citizens. And the state will have no recourse. Neither will you. Not only is the fox in charge of the hen house, he owns the whole damn farm. Unfortunately, I predict that the state will probably let this pass. So then what will you do? Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Tony, Deb said a lot there, but my question to you is, can you speak to her to what she's read in the consent decree, the vague languages that are, I know they're purposefully or not purposely put in there for a reason. Can you speak to that? Like, how well will they be able to be held to account for the work they do? I guess, is the question that you're trying to get to, right, Deb?
Yes. Mhm. There's no accountability.
Because that's everyone's concern. You know, we all want this site cleaned up, but what's our assurances that they'll be held to task?
Well, the statement of decision is where the remedial actions and design are, not in the consent decree. So the consent decree is saying they must implement the statement of decision, which is the remedial design and the actual cleanup, and then the separate is the funding for that. And you are correct, there is in there, if that money is depleted and there's nothing left, then DEP in the consent decree says the state will take over and complete the remediation, which is pretty standard. You know, if that money runs out, the question is always who does it? Well, then it's the state steps in.
And additionally, that money is governed by a trust, not CDP. So that money has to get approved through, we saw in the consent decree, the Maximus is in charge of that trust. So it's not like the money is being handed. And again, this is what we saw in the consent decree.
But the only thing it says they need to do is send reports. It never says what happens if they don't like what they see in the reports. CDP is their own government, and the Constitutional Drive Partners is in charge of the hen house. If this is the fact that it's going to end up on the taxpayers, I don't want it on the taxpayers of Pennsylvania. I want them to charge these businesses enough money to clean this up. But if they're not going to do that, why isn't firms before, hire an outside firm to do it?
I mean, that's the state government. I can't speak to that, but the statement of decision, so CDP would not be the one just deciding what they are going to do to remediate. That will be approved by the DEP. Those remedial designs, the remediation itself is approved, a work plan approved by DEP.
But that's the whole other quandary in all this. And I have that in my statement. I'm
Deb,
sorry, I didn't want to-
Deb, could you come up and talk into the mic?
This is a catch-22. We're being asked to comment on an agreement to implement something that has not been designed. So how do we know if we agree with this?
So what
I mean, the money itself is ridiculous. $11,000, you can buy maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 big houses in East Whiteland for that right now. You're going to clean up all that toxicity for $11 million? And that's with the slush fund. I added it in. It's not feasible. So it's going to fall on the taxpayers. So let the state deal with it to begin with. Okay, I'm sorry.
well,
I know. I have been riling up for this all day.
So in the consent decree is about the funding, where the funding's coming, which is separate from the statement of decision and how they need to clean it up. And in that consent decree, there's a timeline and dates in which things need to be done, which is part of the remedial action, is doing the pre-remedial design phase, doing the work plan. That all needs to be done, approved by the DEP, and then implemented. And there's timelines in there. If you look start to finish, 4.5 years, I think it was, roughly, that if they don't hit these timelines, there's stipulations in their consent decree.
Deb,
I don't think you contradicted you, frankly. I think what you said stands for this.
Deb, I want to make sure you're sending your own comments in as well.
Yes,
Good.
that's the full list of them that I just handed to Scott. I had turned in a partial list before. It's just every time, excuse me, Every time that I look at it, I go, oh my God. And I'm not a lawyer and I'm not an engineer. And this is just so unfair to us. This is so unfair to us to put us in this position when nobody is protecting us. Nobody is protecting our children or our grandchildren. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have a son in his mid-50s who is now facing his second round of cancer, and every day I wonder if I should have moved into that goddamn neighborhood. And I love it there.
Okay. Thank you, Deb. Steve? Steve? You have another comment, if you'd like to come forward?
Thank you. Cindy Shallcross, 79 Village Way. I live 6 houses away from Bishop Tube. I have sent our comment to the DEP, Dustin Armstrong, and this is just one paragraph that my husband and I had put up. The fact that the consent decree has best efforts, feasible, and reasonable. They're just very vague words. That's the first comment. There's nothing really hard about that. The money that's been collected from the responsible parties who operated the facility over 50 years is about 8.5 million. I think somebody just said 11 something. Is just a drop in the bucket. My husband had worked at operating a wastewater treatment facility, and it cost them $3 million to develop a treatment and process and to construct it. And this is with the known pollutants. We don't know exactly all of the pollutants, I'm sure, at Bishop Tube. The work was done in 2010 when the cost and the inflation were much lower. The millions will not, this $8 million won't be enough to determine what the pollutants are on that 13-acre site and run the treatment centers or run the treatment systems that are needed to bring it to the residential standard, which is somewhat loosely just defined. The Constitution drive partners, if they run out of money, it seems like they are off the hook, and the taxpayers or the state will be footing the rest of the bill. This is not responsible use for public funds to allow a private company to profit off of from not completing the job. So my comment, another comment of mine, is success of cleaning up the Bishop Tube should be a tangible goal. It should be, money should be given to it so that it is done in a tangible way that we all know exactly these are the goals and not an empty trust fund. So I'll say that again. Success of cleaning up Bishop Tube should be a tangible goal, not an empty trust fund. What happens if all of the money is finished? Yeah, it goes back to the state, but the state hasn't done anything for 50 years. And so suddenly the state's, we ran out of money for them to do it. We're just going to continue to give money to it. They haven't done it yet. So I'm not pinning my hat on that deal. So that's it. Thank you.
I would have to agree with the lack of confidence in funding. And I ask this to you, Tony. I know we're just sending in our comments, but I know the amount's already been set, but is it even a possibility to say we kind of, as everyone stated, we call bull. This isn't going to cost 11 million. It should be double that for just a round number. They're not going to. I'm putting words in their mouths, but they're not going to listen to what we have to say. I'm guessing.
Well, I think it'd be worth the question of asking them in terms of, I couldn't tell you unless I dive into the details on what I think my estimate of that remediation would be. We deal with a lot of remediation projects, but considering where costs are going right now and inflation, I think it's a valid question to ask on, has that been considered? You know, because honestly, price of oil has gone up. That means piping, PVC, that's what we use for wells. The price skyrockets these days, as well as any kind of offsite disposal, surcharges for trucking. So I think it's a valid comment that we should put in there as to, you know, how does these costs consider inflation at this point?
Steve, is that something that we could fold in, or that's something we will fold in?
Yeah, excuse me, I'm taking notes, and Deb gave Scott her, we did receive her comments by, I forget the due date, but she obviously added more. So we have them, and we'll be working on, assuming it's what the board wants to do, but we'll work on folding the resident comments into what Integral has provided, and then that's what we'll essentially send into the state.
I think that sounds good.
Steve, can I also add my comment to that regarding, you know, structured reevaluation? Not that they'll agree to it, but to the point, if we have no idea where these costs are going to go, there has to be, someone needs to be held accountable to know, like, if it's already halfway gone in a year from now, right, 2 years from now, then, you know, it doesn't seem adequate to finish the job. So.
Understood. No, I hear folks loud and clear with the concern with the cost.
Okay, you've.
Okay. I apologize for it, but I'm with Deb. This has been going on since 2017. And we're frustrated. And from what I'm understanding, our comments are at least going to a judge for the judge to make decision on the consent decree. I just wanted to, I have my letter written. I'll send you a copy tonight when I go home. But when we moved into our home, we didn't know that factory was toxic. The DEP did. We didn't know when my children were down at Little Valley Creek doing their stream study for middle school that creek was toxic. The DEP did. So did the owners. I didn't know when we moved into the house that our neighborhood was considered Cancer Alley. I found that out about 10 years after we moved in from people who grew up in this area. I am a mother of a brain tumor survivor. Elizabeth was born in 1990. We live uphill and upwind of Bishop Tube. Liz had 3 consecutive brain tumors as a teen and young adult. And I've watched a lot of my neighbors struggle with illnesses, Parkinson's disease, lung cancer, all because of the Bishop Tube contamination. My family, neighbors, and I have been advocating for a clean and green Bishop Tube ever since my husband Larry in 2017 saw a little sign at the cul-de-sac that CDP and Brian O'Neill wanted to build 200 houses on 13 toxic acres. If Larry hasn't seen that sign, there would be stuff there. And the DEP knew that that was a toxic site. And so did Brian O'Neill, because there was a covenant not to sue. One of the things I'm going to ask if we could place in our comments is the fact that here in Pennsylvania, we have a constitutional right to clean air, clean water, and a clean environment. Our Constitution, Article 1, Section 27 of the Constitution states that. And we are all accountable for holding that up and holding that to be true. I am extremely concerned by what the consent decree does not provide. It does not spell out how remedial action. It gives no details. I'm understanding now that those come later. I think I'm very confused at this point, nor do I trust everything that's being said by Brian O'Neill, Constitution Drive Partners, and the PADEP. My other big concern is the limited money in the trust funds, as we have stated, so I won't go over that again. For 40 years, they have ignored the toxic contaminations on this site. And for 20 of those years, they have been trying to help CDP and Brian O'Neill develop the site without a remediation plan in place, underway, and completed. Quite simply, the PADEP has no credibility because they have sought to help the developer and not protect us and not uphold our constitutional right. I'm trying to skip over the stuff that has already been said. I'm sorry. One of the things I do not trust that, again, Brian O'Neill and CDP are a responsible choice for oversight and cleanup. From what I understand, they have more power. They will make the decision to clean up and then go to the DEP to get approval. I don't trust this. The PADEP gave them a covenant not to sue, and that was taken away from them because we were involved in suing the PADEP for that. Brian O'Neill also slapped us with a suit, my neighbors, to shut us up. The other thing is about the years. The decree puts in place a 4 to 5 year time frame for this. The fact is, the last time the PADEP held a meeting with the public over this site, just one of 2 public meetings that we've had, we were talking about implementation taking over 20 years. So that might be something you want to question. Why a handful of years ago was it 20 years cleanup and now it's only 4 or 5 cleanup? My deepest desire is that my beautiful neighborhood and the people today and future generations be safe from the toxins that saturate that site. The consent decree does not assure us that safe future. What it does do is assure the developer that PADEP will continue to use their authority to support his development. I think that's enough.
I did look up the federal case while you were talking, and the last order on there is all deadlines in the case are stayed and on or before October 2nd, 2026. The parties shall either A, file their motion to enter the consent decree, or B, submit a joint letter to my chambers as to the status of the matter, along with the proposed case management order for remainder of the case. And I think at this point, District Judge Joshua Wolfson is taking care of the case.
That all these comments, including the township's comments, will go to the judge to make this decision.
Well, it goes to DEP, but they're
Yes,
all,
because it is dear Dustin.
it will end up,
Yeah.
A magistrate judge has been holding, you could see several settlement conferences. So the magistrate judge may be the one who's actually seeing them all.
And make a decision whether this consent decree is appropriate or not. Is that true?
I believe they have to, or the case goes forward.
Right. Okay, so thank you for clarification, because that's what I understood. And I'm sorry I jumped up. You know me, Pete. And this is really upsetting. So thanks for everything you do.
So Donna, you've got some additional people.
Yeah, I actually have Maya online, so if you could unmute yourself, please.
Great. Hi, thank you so much. Maya Van Rossum, the Delaware Riverkeeper here. I apologize for not being there. I had intended to be there this evening, but there was a conflict at the last minute that I couldn't avoid. But I have heard a couple of the remarks and the conversations and the questions. And I think there are just a few things that I'd like to emphasize on this issue. First off, Delaware Riverkeeper Network is going to be submitting very comprehensive comments tomorrow before the deadline. So too is the organization Green Amendments for the Generations. And we are 100% opposing this consent decree as being inappropriate. I did hear some of the, I heard that it was postured that perhaps there could be some questions that would be added to the municipality's comment. I would just highly recommend that you take a position on this issue rather than question whether or not $8.9 million is enough to clean up this toxic site. A figure that was settled on years ago. I suggest to you that you take the position that it is not enough money, because this is not a dialogue between the DEP, the municipality, and the public. We're at a decision-making moment. And these comments are going to end up before a judge who's going to be making the determination about whether or not this consent decree should be approved. If it's approved, it goes forward. If the judge rejects it as being arbitrary, capricious, and not in the public interest, then the consent decree gets stayed and it goes back through the process. So it's really a decision-making moment, and it's a moment for the municipality to take a position. And we would highly recommend you take a position of opposition. Again, any place where you have a question, I would assert it as an affirmative statement. One thing that I think, there are a couple of things, there are a lot of things to be said about this true sweetheart deal that's being given to Constitution Drive partners and the responsible parties. But amongst them is, the concern that there is no actual remedial action that is being proposed in this consent decree. Instead, it's really a process, right? It's a process that is going to or is supposed to yield a remedial action that will then be implemented and will then, have whatever impact on the site. But we don't actually know what are the elements of the remedial action that's being proposed. So the municipality, the experts, the public, we don't really actually have any specifics to comment on. We have a process, and that's not what this community needs. This community needs answers. This community needs a plan that's going to actually clean up this site, or a proposal that we can actually assess and comment upon. And I think that that's a really important determination, a really important recognition and opposition point for the municipality and for everyone. I think, particularly from the municipality's perspective, I hope that you are very concerned by the fact that after all these years of the Department of Environmental Protection promising not to weigh in on the issue of whether, or not promising, but actually refusing to weigh in on whether or not it's appropriate for this site to be developed as a residential site, including while there is still toxic contamination at the site, suddenly the DEP is pretty much signing off on it in this consent decree, which we believe really comes into conflict with and undermines the municipality's authority when it comes to making the determination about whether or not CDP and Brian O'Neill's residential development proposal should be allowed to advance. Your preliminary decision laid out very clear criteria that had to be met. Amongst them was that this site had to be cleaned up before it could start to be developed. The DEP now doing an about face on and saying that they understand that the site will be developed as a residential development and they do not oppose it. I would hope for you, it is certainly for Delaware Riverkeeper Network and the public, very, very concerning that the DEP seems to be giving the thumbs up to a development proposal that you have taken a very clear position on in terms of criteria that have to be met. And we believe that this really conflicts with and undermines the municipality's authority. And then just also the fact that the primary driver for this consent decree really is the dollars and the cents. When the trust runs out, CDP literally is let off the hook from further implementation of whatever is the remedial action that ultimately, in a very iterative way, seemingly gets developed here. This really should be driven by a clean and healthy Bishop Tube site, clean and healthy for the community, clean and healthy for the environment. Instead, it's being driven by the dollars and the cents. And that should really be concerning. And after that money runs out, there really is no clear process as to what happens thereafter. And one final point, we would hope that you would say that there should be clear monitoring after the implementation of this plan, of this remedial action, whatever it is, to determine whether or not it has actually been effective. There are many toxic sites, Act 2 sites in Pennsylvania, Superfund sites, where a remediation plan actually gets designed and gets implemented, and in the final analysis does not accomplish the job of providing the quality protection that the law requires, the environment needs, and the people need. And we do not see monitoring here that would check on whether or not in the final analysis the action that's undertaken is actually effective. And if monitoring demonstrates it is not effective, that DEP will then ensure that there is additional remediation at the site until it does in fact get cleaned up and meet standards. So there's a lot more to be said. I'm sorry that I'm not there in person. I hope that's helpful. But again, in the final analysis, we just hope the municipality will take a very firm, strong position of urging the court to reject this consent decree. And in your comments, please ask the DEP to transmit the municipality and the public's comments in full to the judge for review, rather than preparing their own summary of what it is they think that you are trying to say. Because we do not, as Kate and others have said, we do not believe that DEP has earned our trust in responding to our concerns or even characterizing them.
That raises a question. I don't know if anyone's got the answers, but is there a way that we can see the packet of information that is going to be presented to the judge?
A lot of the docket a lot of the docket, if you are not a party, which we are not, you can't get access to the documents. So it would depend on whether DEP put it on its website or it is something on the docket that the judge will allow anyone to see.
Would the residents being party to this have the ability to ask the details?
I'm sorry, say that again?
As residents who have status on this, would they be able to request that package of information if it doesn't appear on the website?
We could certainly ask DEP, yeah.
I think that's another legitimate question that Maya brings up.
That and to ask, like Maya said, I think that's a real good point to have our words, the words of the residents, and our words as we've stated, said to the judge, not as a summary. That sounds a lot better than the highlights.
Okay. Tim, you've got a question?
Face. They're the face. Tim Caban, 1050 West King Road. A quick comment to this about Bishop Tube is that the plume from Bishop Tube goes under 30 onto the property that was where the Boy Scouts sold the trees. It goes down. There's a bridge abutment across from People's Light, and there used to be a little house in there. A very kind woman had me in there when I was on the historical mission and asked me to come there. She sang me a song on a guitar that sounded like it was out of Appalachia about her brother who died of cancer. And they were at the time, she told me this, I don't know if it's true, it was the only house that was on a DEP well that they actually drank from. The reason I want to comment about this is because I'm reading on the township website, parks list, Down East Park. Down East Park, 30 Winding Way, Malvern, PA, 19355. It's a brief description. Down East Park, located in the neighborhood off Winding Way, is a small park where playground equipment for younger children. The park is extra special because it is dedicated to celebrating the life of Julia Bitto, age 6, of Malvern, who died on March 14, 2019, 19 months after being diagnosed with DIPG, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, a rare and aggressive form of pediatric brain cancer. So I would encourage all of us, I know that there's a default legal position many times to not get sued, but at some point, somebody's got to stand up. And this is not rocket science. I don't know these people. Somebody lost a 6-year-old, but it's got to have a broader scope than the limited Bishop 2 because it impacts the Down East. You had a 6-year-old die of cancer. Thank you.
I may be speaking out of turn, but the plume that continues into Down East neighborhood is part of the remedial plan or the consent decree. Is that correct? Yes, no?
Yeah, I'm not certain how far the plume extends.
I've looked at the DEP slides and they show the plume going as far as Tim has stated into the Down East neighborhood. Is that as far as the consent decree will go to remediate? Is that correct? Or is it just the Bishop Tube site?
Well, I'll take a stab and you guys correct me. The DEP calls them operating units, and operating unit 1 is the soils, is that right? Operating unit 2 is the groundwater contamination that Tim talked about, and then operating unit 3 was the well. There was a house that was on a well, maybe it was the same house, I don't know. And they have been connected to public water, but anyway, so Tim's right, the plume does extend. How far it goes, I'm not sure.
Just one quick comment. If you look on Google Maps and you look at the location of the playground set in Down East Park, Little Valley Creek runs directly next to the playground set. I'm not a scientist, but water flows. And I would guess that if there's any way for something to migrate, it would be in water flowing. Thank you.
Okay, no other questions?
I had one more thing. I think I don't know if it was touched on, but I don't want it to be missed. I would definitely like to include comments, although I see in DEP's slides the protective measures they have for, I guess, protecting the neighboring residents. But I'm certainly concerned as the General Warren Village is directly downwind from Bishop Tube site, and I guess my comment would be, I don't know how it could be put in place, but as strong as could be the air monitoring and the groundwater and surface water to protect the residents of the General Warren Village. Do you have any advice on comments for that, Tony?
Yeah. Just double checking. That probably, you could put it in the comments for the consent decree, but in terms of that monitoring plan for dust control, that will come once the remedial action work plan gets developed. But I would keep encouraging and hammering every time for continuous air monitoring. We call it a perimeter air monitoring plan. We've put these together before. If the wind shifts, you're moving your stations. It's continuous real-time monitoring, and it could be web-based. You can have it on your website so that everybody can see the information from the air monitoring. So anytime we could comment on that, I think that's the most important, especially during construction.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take one more question here and then we'll move on.
Cindy Shawcross, 79 Village Way. To your point, I live at 79 Village Way, and on a windy day, breezy day, I have a little flag that's right by my mailbox, and that thing goes parallel to the ground when it's just a little breeze or a big breeze. So if we could set that in somewhere, that the breeze going into, say, my open windows, I know once the site's touched or begins to be touched, remediation or whatever, my windows will be permanently closed because I don't want that in my house. I'm kind of afraid of my air conditioning unit sucking it in, but I mean, what am I going to do? I live up the street, downwind. Also, I want to know, I guess the other day when they were finishing up, actually, while they were doing their investigation down at the cul-de-sac, every afternoon they wash down their trucks with water. So then the water in the cul-de-sac has kind of a slight incline. So the water that they were washing off their truck tires rolled into the Little Valley Creek. So I just wanted to maybe have somebody question DEP about that. Just letting you know that that's, with all of this going on, whether it's remediation or not, somebody needs to monitor the air quality as well as what they're doing, because they're washing it down into the creek. So that's all.
Thank you, Cindy.
Hi, is it okay if I give one more piece of input on this particular question?
Yes, it's Maya. I just asked her to unmute. So.
Great, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. Again, this is not a comment process on the remediation of the remedial action plan, right? There's a proposal. And so you may have thoughts on what it should include, that it should include air monitoring, but that's not really what this process is about. So I would suggest to you, number one, that the failure to consider, address, talk about, put forth a plan for air monitoring, because that is such a serious concern, that is a reason for you to oppose this consent decree as failing to protect the environment, including the environmental rights of your constituents. The other thing that this really raises is the fact of the matter is that once this consent decree is approved, the process moving forward is the remedial action is going to be developed by CDP with DEP input. We do not see any ongoing opportunity for public information, public review, or public input. So when these work plans and all these pieces are developed, there's not going to be any opportunity for you, the municipality or the public to review and give comment that could, should, or would, or is required to have, that DEP is required to respond to, and will have an impact on that final remedial action. So one of the things that you may want to include as in the alternative, right, oppose the consent decree, but also say that if this consent decree does go forward, there should be an opportunity for public review, comment, and a requirement for DEP response at every decision-making point, that where there's a review and input opportunity for DEP themselves. Every remedial design, every work plan, every data set that gets developed and issued and commented upon, and that the oversight on that whole process, public review and comment process, should be placed in the hands of the judge, an independent judge, not the DEP, who has demonstrated itself to really have a position on this issue, which is the position that this remedial action as proposed, as light as it is, should be allowed to go forward. We really need, the municipality and the community needs full opportunity to comment and needs an independent arbiter of what happens with those comments, and it should be the judge, not DEP.
Thank you, Maya. Okay. Let's close the public comment section for this and move on to the next item. You okay with that, Steve? Yeah. We've got.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think you should make a motion that we, send comment to the DEP, based on what Integral gave us and all the public comments that we've heard this evening. We'll factor them in tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'd like to make a motion to release to send to the DEP about the Bishop Tube consent decree, all the comments made by our environmental engineer Integral, and to also include the comments of the Board of Supervisors and the public, to be submitted tomorrow, as it is the due date May 14th. Is that good, Steve?
Do I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And passes. And thank you, everyone, for the comments. John Neal on our update regarding security phase and the patrol room project.
Right. This next item is we're asking for the board to approve the security improvements to this building and the police building. That's a CoStar's project. It was spelled out in your packet.
Yes, long overdue, John. Thank you.
And you want to wrap up and then?
Yeah, that was one item. The other one was separate.
We're going to do them separately. All right, fine. Would you like to make a motion? Any public comments pertaining to this? Seeing none, would you make a motion?
Go ahead, Clint.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to approve security phase 1 of the main building admin police security improvements.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And passes.
Okay, thank you. The next item is the patrol room upgrades, long overdue. This is electrical work, which is the main driver of the project. It will also include flooring, new workstations, and network rewiring. And that is in basically the squad room, the working area for the police. And that was $65,000.
Right.
Another long overdue.
Any public comments? on that
Adjustment.
one? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Clint.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the upgrade for the patrol room project in the amount of $65,000.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And passes.
Thank you.
Catherine, update on the GTRP grant?
Thank you. Yeah, this is a resolution for application to the GTRP grant program for Backton Hill Phase 2 park improvements that the board's aware we've been working on accumulating grant funds for. So this is just for authorization for an application for that program.
And the main focus on that would be the building of the
A
restrooms?
comfort station, trail connections, and then some ancillary items related to landscaping.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make I'd like to make a motion to approve the GTRP grant application resolution 24-2026.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And passes. Chief, I guess you're up.
So we need to ratify the sale of a 2020 Ford Escape with 97,000 miles on it for $6,000. It was in need of a considerable amount of mechanical work. It was publicized on the sale.
We have a Ford Escape?
Yeah, we actually have several in the township.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought
And
that
we
was
just-
like the township runaround vehicle.
No, they're pretty nice vehicles right now. But we replaced this one already with another Escape. So they're economical to buy and to run, theoretically. So we sold it for $6,000 on municipal bid, and we just need that ratified.
Sure, yeah. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a motion to ratify the sale of the 2020 Ford Escape with 97,000 miles in the amount of $6,000.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And passes. Catherine, if you
I'm
can
back
give us,
again.
you're back again with Comcast franchise
I
agreement.
am. So the last one was Verizon, if it seems familiar. So now we're on to Comcast. So our legal team's completed contract negotiations for another 5-year term. And this agreement needs to be adopted by ordinance. So what's the action before the board this evening is to authorize advertisement for the ordinance for the June 10th board meeting.
Does the public have any comment pertaining to the Comcast franchise agreement? Again, seeing none. I think this is pretty clean, simple. Clinton, your button's on, so you're
No, I just
up.
want to question just, regarding that negotiations that we are getting increased fees from that, from what it was due to the changes with the, from internet to television, et cetera, that Comcast continues to make.
I would say probably the right way to characterize it is that there continues to be a move towards streaming services, which the township doesn't realize revenues on. But we've retained all of the major benefits of the previous contract term, which is huge for us because that's been one of the big factors is that as there's a move towards streaming, we have less sort of bargaining power with entities like Comcast and Verizon. So thankfully, we've been able to retain most of or all of the major benefits of the previous contract.
All right, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
For 5 years, that is?
For 5 years, yeah.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve for the advertising of the Comcast franchise agreement public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And passes. John Neal again regarding handicap parking.
Yes, we'd like to ask for approval to advertise for a public hearing at June meeting for the updated handicap parking ordinance. This is on-street handicap parking.
Is this so that space is provided where
It's
there
the
may be none?
process. Our old ordinance was very vague. It was just one small paragraph. This has much better detail of the process to go about if you need that spot.
This is for residential neighborhoods.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry not to dwell too much on the subject. Does the impetus of that come from a resident saying, and perhaps maybe they have elderly handicapped person that will be frequently visiting their house to make sure that the
Exactly.
space
We've
is
had
preserved?
certain areas of the township where parking's at a premium, and we get requests all the time, and we don't have a good framework for how they apply for a spot and how it's approved. So this updated ordinance has that whole process laid out.
Sounds good.
Any comments from the public? Peter, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve advertising for a revised handicap parking ordinance.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next, we've got consider the extension of time. Bishop Tube, Catherine?
For the final plan? Yeah.
Yeah, we have, the applicant has given us an extension until August 28th of 2026, and I believe Bernadette has also talked to the applicant to potentially make a presentation or appear at the next meeting in June.
Yeah, I asked the attorney, Ed Campbell, if he would be able to come tonight to basically answer questions that we may have in reference to where they're going with this plan. He was unable, he was already booked tonight, but he said he would be available for June 10th to come and discuss that. And at that point, we'll be further along in what's happening with the consent decree.
Did everyone copy that out there? Do not miss June 10th meeting. Yeah, of course.
Sure. Okay.
Just in regard to something like this, what are the implications if we say no to the final plan?
We're limited in time to render a decision. So we wouldn't make it to the next meeting to render a decision. We only have a certain amount of time to render. If we're going to say no tonight, we only have a certain amount of time to render a decision, and they wouldn't have that before the next
So you
meeting.
say yes to the August 28th and it gives you more time to decide whether,
Yeah, I think
this is kicking the can down the road.
Well, we needed to see we didn't know what was happening in the federal court action because we're not a party. And when the consent decree came out, that's what I was asking Mr. Campbell. How does this, what's your next step? What are you doing based on the consent decree?
For the plan,
Yeah.
for the building.
Yeah. So he's supposed to come and answer that next month. I did ask him to come tonight. He was unavailable. He was already at another meeting.
Okay.
Any other comments? Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to consider extension of time to render a decision on the Bishop Tube redevelopment final plan until August 28th, 2026.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
It passes. Next on the agenda is a presentation of a sketch plan by GVCC in the development of Phase 3.
Good evening, Gina Gerber. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. You may recognize my face. I've been here a couple times. We are here again with regard to two pending petitions to amend the zoning ordinance and map with respect to a proposed Phase 3 master plan development within the Great Valley Corporate Center. The petitions, just as a quick reminder, would introduce the 2 parcels in question, which is 325 Technology Drive and 6 Great Valley Parkway, into the GVR Great Valley Revitalization Overlay. It would then also allow for a use in the Great Valley Revitalization Overlay, which is the gas service station, which would be in conjunction with a retail use that's already permitted in that overlay district. And it would also, the petitions would amend the design guidelines for the Great Valley Revitalization Overlay District in order to take into account some of the uses that are being proposed at 325 Technology Drive and 6 Great Valley Parkway, to make sure that those design guidelines are more closely aligned with the township's goals and intentions for that overlay district on these particular properties. So things like creating more connectivity, pedestrian improvements, things such as that, streetscapes, things that would otherwise be applicable to your design guidelines but may not closely align with these particular properties. And then finally, in order to increase the required component of workforce housing in multifamily residential developments within the Great Valley Revitalization Overlay District. So we would be proposing your workforce ordinance requires 10 to 20% workforce housing units. This ordinance would increase that to a required minimum of 30% for any multifamily housing project over 100 units within the overlay district. And just as a refresher, what we would intend to do with these proposed amendments is to proceed into a phase 3 development, which would include 6 Great Valley Parkway, a Sheets, as well as a Primrose Daycare. Those would be 2 tenants on a single parcel. They are going to be separated by oh, there we go. We see it on the plan. So those 2 parcels will be separated, but we'll have an access driveway, 2 separate access driveways from Moore Hall Road. And then the other parcel is 325 Technology. That would be an approximately 150 unit residential multifamily, which would then be able to take advantage of that 30% workforce housing component and see how that workforce housing component actually works within the township. So make use of it and put it into play in order to be able to benefit those folks within the Great Valley Corporate Center. As many of you know, Great Valley Corporate Center is having a hard time right now. There are a lot of vacancies. There is a lot of tenancy or ownerships that are actually in receivership right now. What we're proposing here is to try and put a shot in the arm of the Great Valley Corporate Center and introduce some uses that we really think are going to work on this site, to introduce some amenities such as the daycare use and the Sheets, which is going to be able to be taken advantage of by folks that are working within the corporate center, and then also introduce some workforce housing for those folks that want to work and live in the township. So we think that this is an overall start to what will ultimately be a very collaborative project to help the Great Valley Corporate Center within the township. So, Mark, did you want to weigh in a little bit at all this evening?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for giving us an audience tonight. We were here last month, and we agreed that we would go to the Planning Commission, see what they think. I thought that was a very enthusiastic, 100% endorsement of these ideas. It is frustrating that we're watching the Great Valley Corporate Center die right in front of our eyes. And there might be times we're asking ourselves, what can we do about it? Can a childcare center and a convenience store and some workforce housing make all the difference? It's a start. You can sit back tonight, you can say no, and then we're back at square one. You have a piece of ground on the corner that's been a piece of ground on the corner for 10 years. We're back at square one. Or tonight, and I said this to Peter, 100%. We had 100% endorsement from the Planning Commission. It's so important, I think, to send a message that we all agree on something that can actually make a difference to help the park. A split vote doesn't get us there tonight. That's not a win if you ask me. I think it's a moment where we could step up together, and I've said this every time I'm in front of this board. We present ideas that we think are aligned with your goals. All right, so we're swimming with the current. Workforce housing is a priority of the board. You'd like to see 20% commitments from developers. We raised the bar to 30%. All right, that's a convenience store with gas pumps. We're doing something that no one's done. We got sheets to agree to put the gas pumps in the back. You're not going to see them on 29. Show me a Wawa or a store like that where the pumps are in the back. That's important because of aesthetics. I agree with you, Peter. That's an important corner. We're trying to cater to our anchor, right? Johnson & Johnson is holding up that park by themselves. The workforce housing can be a win for them. The crown jewel we'd like to develop for them across the street, I don't know if we could show that, but we're on a tipping point where that could happen. But the convenience store, the childcare, it's a full court press to support our anchor to be successful, right? So that's my 2 cents. I'll go back to the Planning Commission. I think everybody respects their opinion, and we're going to hang our hat on that tonight. So,
What would the makeup of how many units was it?
Approximately, the residential?
Residential, yes.
Roughly 150.
What would the makeup of those units be? 1 and 2 bedroom houses?
Yes,
Or
so right.
units, I'm sorry.
Yes, you're correct. So there are no 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom proposed. The makeup of that would be 1 to 2 bedroom units with the intent that there wouldn't be a large impact to the school district with this project.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
And I just had a question regarding the ordinance adjustment here. Looking at the overlay district allowing for, development, and you stated, the gas station, but it also in there states, trying to find the specific wording here, but it states something about auto repair and auto sales.
Yes.
I'm not sure from a ordinance standpoint if that's, that broadens that ability for that area, right? Once we change the overlay language, there are other areas within the overlay. You may be able to, somebody could come in and put in a auto service center or a dealership, right?
Sure.
And I don't know if that's the vision for the board or vision for, what you're looking to do down the road or what, but I'm just thinking out loud, like maybe being able to limit that language a little more specifically to take out those additional areas. But I'm also not an ordinance.
So in your motion tonight, hopefully to approve these ideas, why don't you add a caveat that we're not allowed to do that?
So just for clarity.
My lawyer's going to kick me for saying that. But
No, it's already been done. So,
even better.
yeah, staff is very astute. When we filed this initially, we were trying to follow the language of the ordinance and introduce the full breadth of that use to the GVR. But that has since been redacted. We've submitted an amended version of that initial petition that was submitted in October. We submitted that in November to address exactly what you are concerned about. So the current version of the petition that we're asking you to consider and send on to the county for review and ultimately for a hearing before this board only references gasoline service station as the use that's being added.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Gina, as a permitted use?
Yes, it would be as a permitted use.
And it's only within the GVR overlay
Overlay.
as well. So I just wanted to follow up with that. What you're seeing now on the screen is the full overlay, or is the full, what you would consider the GVCC overlay. So it only encompasses what's on the screen right now, not any additional sites at this time.
Comments? Public comment?
Any comments from the public? Could you come forward?
My name is Richard Wall. I live at 8 Westgate Circle, Malvern. I was curious what you guys think about the open space referendum and how that coordinates with this plan. We want to preserve open space. We have 76, 202, Route 30, Bishop Tube, open contamination, a train track, power lines, and a little piece of grass. We talk about historical preservation, the general welfare provision of the MPC. We're not an industrial welfare community. We're a community of residents, and we have history here. It's not our job to help bankruptcy corporations. We have a referendum, we're a community. That picture right there is a farmhouse. I work at Penn State, there's a farmhouse that's still there. This used to be farmland. How does this coordinate with the open space referendum, which is the will of the people?
We really don't have open space proposed to be in our corporate, Great Valley Corporate Center.
Why not?
I mean, other than Valley Creek Park, which is the benefit of the corporate
Which
center.
is now across the street from an industrial apartment complex, which looks horrible, but that's another story for another day. We have a little bit of space, Mr. Fixler. This is a great opportunity for all of you, and Mr. Smith, you're new, and Scott, I've talked to you quite a bit, to take leadership and restore our community to a residential community. There's a comment that was made that East Whiteland has strong industrial heritage. Quarries, Superfund sites, Bishop Tube, data-centered fight. Next to the most historical battle in the history of America that led to the victory. Where's the preservation? Where's the commitment to open space? Where's the things we elected you to do? That's not it. The sheets? Atwater? Next to a quarry? Wasn't your fault? Seriously? I know what you stand for. That's not it. Thank you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, thanks. Megan Reese, 175 Lap Road. And, I'm here, just, listen, I had no idea about this, this idea of taking the corporate center. I live behind the corporate center. I have to deal with, I've lived here for 31 years, with the noises, with the smells, with this, all of the corporate center pharmaceutical issues. And I'm not far from Flat Road, which has been closed for what, 2 years now because of sinkholes. I see sinkholes all the time. I just can't imagine you'd want to build, I'm like a little upset over this, but that you'd want to put more housing into an area where, I was with you. Yeah, let's take these old buildings. Let's put some daycares because you keep building buildings with people and families and overcrowding our schools. So I was like, okay, great. And then, okay, let's do some more community things. Okay, let's have some paths. Let's have, but like a gas station, more housing. I am like, I understand you're not Charlestown Township. I understand you're not Willistown Township. You have zero, you just said it. You don't have any loyalty to green space except for Valley Creek, which you don't really care too much about because you built a monstrosity across the street from it. It's just absurd to me, the amount that this township will sell out its residents for the almighty dollar. And I just can't. It's very disappointing to hear this.
Thank you. One comment that I'd like to add to this is that we had an open space referendum that you folks passed last year, and we've purchased 2 properties already at this point in time and continue to look for other opportunities to purchase. So we are actively seeking the Schiffer property, another piece of property off of Sweetsford Road, and there is a committee that meets once a month that we're actively looking. We've already spent close to $8 million on acquiring property, and we have an allocated revenue source of another $7 million at this point in time. So we are actively looking at doing that. And
And while I appreciate the concern, I do, but I also know that this township has a responsibility to responsibly develop as well. So the property in question here is area that is already within the OBP Office Business Park District. These are commercial properties. In fact, 6 Great Valley Parkway has already been approved for an office development many years ago, and there's already an office building on 325 Technology Drive. These are not areas that are located in places within the township that would benefit from being open space or from being preserved. And I would just like, to remind the residents of that, as this board is tasked with reviewing plans for appropriate development in appropriate areas and preserving open space in those areas where it's appropriate to do so.
just coming back.
Again, Richard Wall, I respectfully disagree with that. We have a very small tract of land. You come from on Route 30, you go down the hill go through Willistown, and you have a junkyard. Then you've got a storage facility. Then you have another storage facility. Then you got a train track with billboards. You got the heart at Moore Hall Road, it's a gas station.
Right.
You got a Friendly's. Let me finish. You got a Friendly's. You got more storage facilities. It's ugly, and we can restore it as a team, as a community, and we can make it a residential community that we're proud of. It's not a good look, and this is not a good addition. You have an opportunity here to work with us, and I don't look, and with all due respect, I don't look at the open space referendum specific to just the words, but the intent of the people who voted to spend their own money. And it's good that and I know you're working hard. I didn't mean to take away from what you're doing. And I'm glad that you preserve space over near East Goshen, which is already beautiful, but we would like to see it here. Thank you.
Okay.
You had 2 petitions before you. I think in your package, it actually had the October, not the November. Oh, was it? Maybe I missed it.
I included both the October and the February
So-
as long as language, so we had the language of
Brittany,
both.
just for clarification, that October submission was amended in November. So
Okay. Sorry, I have the wrong. thing
Nope,
here.
that's okay. So that petition was amended in November in order to clarify that the proposed use was for the GVR overlay district was
I know.
gasoline service station.
Correct.
as a
I
permitted
apologize. I
use.
have the correct language here, but the wrong date.
No worries. The date.
Gina, do you know the date?
Early November.
So I'm trying to find
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
email correspondence. Sorry about that.
Well,
Give me just
Gina's
one
looking
second.
for it. I'll just explain. These are petitions basically to amend the zoning map and zoning ordinance. So they are not something that you are bound to make a decision today. There's no time frame for it. So you can make a motion to agree to advertise it and send it. It would then go to the Planning Commission and the Chester County Planning Commission. You could say you want to think about it a little more.
That is what staff is looking for tonight. We would like direction of what the board would like to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
The applicant's ask this evening was just to move it forward for consideration by the County Planning Commission, who has not yet been provided with a copy of these petitions, and then to consider advertising and scheduling the petitions for a hearing.
Yeah. So the motion, should you decide to grant the motion, would be to send it to the Chester County Planning Commission. All ordinances that are proposed go also back to our own Planning Commission, and then you authorize a public hearing, in order to change the zoning ordinance and the zoning map. I believe this has been to our Planning Commission, East Whiteland's Planning Commission, twice.
Yes,
Correct,
so
but they would still have to see it again.
the recommendation from last month, the unanimous recommendation, isn't sufficient for the review of the petitions, because I was under the impression that they were reviewing and making a recommendation on both petitions that evening.
Yeah, I believe that is correct.
There is a pending transaction in the area that might have an impact on some of this. Details are not out yet, and I'd like to see that transaction and know some of the details pertaining to it before I agree or disagree with this particular project. So if you would like to make a motion to move it forward, that's fine. I'm just a little concerned on this other situation.
Well, the applicant would like potential unanimous votes. I'm not going to make a motion unless we're all going to vote in one direction or the other. Are you going to abstain, is what you're saying?
Yes. Dissent. I would dissent at this point in time.
Fair enough. I guess we'll hold off.
Zoning and code enforcement.
We're at the top. Review and consider maintenance.
All right, review and consider maintenance agreement for Malvern Crossing.
I could briefly explain that. This is at the point where it's just for landscaping. It's the 18-month period to make sure that the landscaping survives in the Malvern Crossing. And this was the final release of the letter of credit, I believe it was, for the development was done in December. And we've been working on this maintenance agreement. They will put up the 18-month, I believe they're going to do it in cash, it sounds like. And they also have to pay a little bit for Pico, that's right around the Pico area. The plants died, so they're just going to pay to redo that. And we just did a short maintenance agreement that would be signed by the developer and the township for that 18-month period, solely related to landscaping. It is not being dedicated to the township. The landscaping is not going to be taken care of by the township after the 18-month period, but the 18-month period is to make sure the landscaping survives.
I feel like that site's been active for more than 18 months.
Yeah, we did the final release, I believe, in December of 2025 for the land development letter of credit. And the one thing that we asked for that 18-month maintenance period for was landscaping. And Mr. Kavanaugh has been involved in this. So that's what solely this maintenance agreement is for, is that landscaping to make sure it survives for that 18-month period. We have, normally people put up a bond for that 18-month, but they're putting up cash.
I'm
Just for
I read this over and I'm just trying to understand. This is Malvern Crossings next to Malvern Hunt, correct, Brittany? And they've been there for years now, that's for sure. Probably sold out.
Yeah, I believe a large portion of the landscaping died either last year or the year before, and I think a lot of this is replanting. And
So that resets the clock? So to say?
I wouldn't say it resets the clock, but when our consultant went to go out and inspect the plants, I don't think that they were in good health. And so they either needed to be I won't speak to his letter, I can pull it for you, but they either needed to be replanted or I guess there was some type of die-off. I can definitely forward you the rest of Dave Kavanaugh's letter. He speaks to why the landscaping needed to be replaced in the first place. And then there was landscaping, I think in the Pico easement or the Pico right-of-way that I think was not initially on the plans, and we had asked for there to be the plantings installed.
All right,
I think the reason it was, usually you don't do the 18-month maintenance period until the letter of credit, everything is released. And it takes a while sometimes. So then normally what ends up happening is there's this 18-month period. It's oftentimes for dedication. Like if the township takes a road, there's that 18-month period where, yeah, we took dedication of it, but for 18 months, we want your bond to make sure everything's good. The township's not taking dedication of the landscaping, but we did want that 18-month, let's make sure it survives for the landscaping.
Okay.
Peter, do you want me to send you Dave's letters too so you have them, you can review them?
That'd be nice to have seen.
Absolutely. No, I will. I said Peter may be able to read them better than me. They're for landscaping, so that's why yeah. We just need you to authorize that the township manager can sign the agreement.
Okay, would you like to make a motion on that?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to review and consider the maintenance agreement for the Malvern Crossings.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And then we've got Lock Aaron
Yeah.
and partial satisfaction.
So normally, land development agreements are recorded in full against the properties. They are selling the property. They had asked for a satisfaction of the land development and financial security agreement because it's of title, recorded of title. And we don't normally do that, but what we are willing to do is saying there are certain paragraphs related to the financial security. Again, you put up the financial security, and as you go through the process, it gets released. And then you come down to the final release, which means you've done all the things that are on the cost estimate that the township engineer reviews and lists. It's a very long, usually pages, and says, here's the final amount you owe the township. And as time goes on, as you're constructing, it gets released. And then there's a final release, and we give the letter of credit back to the bank. We agree that this is a partial satisfaction of the land development agreement. The land development agreement often has other items in there, such as we have the right to come on the township has the right to come on the property if there's a stormwater issue. We have the right if there's certain roads or trees or landscaping that we want the right to go on and make sure are being maintained. So we don't want to fully satisfy the land development agreement because there are ongoing obligations. Namely, the township, most of them are the township being able to get on the property if there's an issue. So I agreed that we would indicate that there's a partial satisfaction just of the financial security paragraphs, which were 2 paragraphs, because they have been released. There is no more financial security because the construction is complete. So it's just 2 paragraphs that we agreed that partial satisfaction of the recorded land development agreement could be terminated.
Okay. Clint, you want to make a motion?
Thank you, Chair, I'd like to make a motion to review and consider the partial satisfaction for Lock Aaron.
Second?
Second that?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Final on is the West Whiteland draft comp plan?
I have, I provided a memo in your packet, and I did provide links in case you'd like to take a look at it yourself. Just a few points of topic for you. The last comprehensive update from West Whiteland was 1994, so they were well due for one. This will take them through to 2036. The zoning and land use moving towards the future emphasizes redevelopment and adaptive reuse, particularly in their town center area, which we know as the, I'll say the Main Street, Route 30 corridor, and where the mall is. The border with our township here, we share residential zoning, office and mixed use zoning, limited industrial, and then neighborhood commercial. Looking at their zoning map, our zoning map, and the two together, I'd say that they are generally complement each other, pretty much go hand in hand. I would anticipate in the next few years, East Whiteland Township will likely undertake their own comprehensive update. Staff doesn't have any comments to send to West Whiteland. If you do, we're happy to send them as well. There was nothing that stuck out to me in particular.
I thought it was on point for what West Whiteland seems to be.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we're under no obligation to comment. It's just a part of the process. When a community updates a comprehensive plan, they have to send it to their neighbors as part of the process.
Yeah, I don't see any need for any additional comments. Clinton, any thoughts? Or none? Okay, all right. Now we move on to zoning and John Mateo and code enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the month of May, there will be no regular zoning hearing board meeting. However, in June, the zoning hearing board is slated to hear an appeal hearing on June 2nd. With that, I'm asking if the board would agree to have the township solicitor there to represent the interests of the township. That appeal is zoning hearing board case number 2026. It's the appeal of Lamar Advertising of Penn LLC, who are appealing the denial of a building permit application for the installation of a 300 square foot double-faced digital premises sign at 49 East Lancaster Avenue. So that is that is the gist of the case, and asking the township would approve send Bernadette on your behalf.
But I wanted to explain, this was not on the agenda. It's on this agenda right now, but I don't believe it was on the agenda posted 24 hours in advance. So I have to ask you to make a motion to amend the agenda to include this. And I want to explain why. Normally, the zoning hearing board solicitor has his June meeting, I believe it's on June 22nd. And we were asking the applicant for a waiver of the time to hold the hearing. The timing of it when they filed it in April, it will be more than 60 days if we held it on June 22nd, which was then a deemed approval because we haven't held it within the 60 days. And they haven't provided us with a waiver letter. In an abundance of caution, the zoning hearing board solicitor said, we'll have two hearings in June, and this one became June 2nd. He just got everybody at the zoning hearing board members to agree to meet on June 2nd. In the end, we may get the waiver extension, and it can be held on June 22nd, but we didn't want to run that risk because of the timing of the advertising. So Mr. Rao, I think, sent that to us, was it last night? He finally had everyone agree? Yeah, so it hit the agenda late. So I have to ask you to make a motion to amend the agenda to include that 2026-04, the Lamar Company's appeal from denial of the building permit application for a sign at 49 East Lancaster Avenue scheduled for June 2nd, and put that on the agenda. Bless you. Make that a motion to place this on the agenda And then we can have a motion, whether you want to support or oppose the application or send the solicitor. And I can explain that as part of this. Because it's a denial of the building permit application that they filed based on zoning, Mr. Matea is going to have to testify. So normally, if the zoning officer is testifying, we usually go and help with the testimony. He's going to usually is the main witness. Sometimes we can get the party, the applicant, to agree to stipulate to certain facts, but John will be the main witness. And normally, the solicitor goes and prepares the witness, things of that nature. And this is a long ongoing billboard case. Yes. So the first motion I need from you is to add what I had indicated on the agenda.
Yes. I shall try.
Okay.
I kind of took some notes. Unless you want to. Did you take
I'm
notes?
sorry?
I'll try it.
Go.
So I'll like to make a motion to place the 2026-04 Lamar Company's appeal from the denial of the building permit B 2026-70 application for sign at 49 East Lancaster Avenue, scheduled for June 2nd, 2026, to be added to the East Whiteland Township Board of Supervisors agenda of May 13, 2026. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And passes.
Second motion.
To send the solicitor.
Oh, I can do that too.
Go for it.
I think we're in agreement that of what we want to do here. So I'd like to make a motion to send either the solicitor or Codes John Matea to. I guess it has to be.
Really, it's whether you're sending the solicitor's office to oppose the application.
All right. So we're making a motion to send John Matea to oppose.
No, the solicitor. He has to be there.
Okay. I'm making a motion to send the solicitor to the zoning hearing board petition pertaining to the Lamar Companies at the June zoning hearing board.
June 2nd.
June 2nd.
Does he have to put the permit?
No, it's on the agenda.
Okay.
And in opposition.
In opposition to
Lamar.
Companies.
Digital billboard. Yes.
Will that work? It'll have to. I have a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So we know where you are, John, on June 2nd.
Thank you. Under updates, Mr. Chairman, with the growing season upon us, the township has gotten several inquiries concerning overgrown properties. Residents are reminded that property maintenance code requires grass and other vegetation to be maintained to not exceed 8 inches in height. With these kind of inquiries, questions, reports, you're reminded that you can report questions and complaints like these to our township reporter, our citizen reporter app that is found on our township website. For commercial properties, we've started an inventory of signs and education of our businesses, especially when they pertain to temporary or special event signs. I'll continue to visit businesses in hopes of getting voluntary compliance with our sign codes. Thank you.
Thank you. We're moving now to the public comment for items not specifically listed on the agenda. At this time, I am turning over.
I'm sorry.
At this point in time, I'm turning this portion over to Bernadette Kearney to oversee this portion of the agenda.
Yeah. Is everything okay, Donna? Just want. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. We did put a statement out on the website that there have been, this is a reference to Sentinel Green Fig. There have been 2 appeals filed related to Sentinel Green Fig matter. The township insurance carrier, Divot, has assigned counsel to the appeal filed on April 30th, which appeal encompasses many issues and references several sections of the MPC and the township saldo. In addition to the recently filed appeal, there's a pending emergency motion for stay, which is to be heard by the Court of Common Pleas in early June. While the board will hear your comments and positions, it will likely be unable to answer questions that relate to the pending litigation and the pending emergency motion for stay. We will review your comments with insurance counsel, who is not present tonight, who can determine if the FAQ can be updated or the matter will be part of a response to the pending litigation and the motion to stay. So we just wanted you to be aware of that. I will be taking notes on your comments and speaking with insurance counsel if they're related to the pending litigation.
And I will add on this section here, we're limiting comments to 3 minutes, so please adhere to that. Thank you.
Is it on? Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Donna, let me know if I'm being unintelligible, because I tend to be. Scott, can I ask you what your impression is of the Foot Mineral site? Like, do you have an idea of what the condition is, or some brief statement you could make about that? I don't think it pertains to any cases, but let me know. Okay. Sorry about that. Scott, here, hold on. Okay, Scott, could you give me an idea of what you think the condition of the Foot Mineral site is?
I think we've been, and Steve Brown may be able to answer this, we've been updating the website in reference to EPA's comments. EPA has been responding to a lot of comments from the neighbors, and we, I believe, have been updating the website with EPA's comments.
All right. So do you have a feeling for what the condition is now? Like, is it good? Is it bad? Is it a mess? Is any kind of general notion?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that. I mean, I don't think you can, first of all, I'm not qualified. Second of all, I don't even know that EPA could say, but the parcel, there's a cap, which most people are familiar with, on the most eastern portion of the property. That is what EPA refers to as the selected remedy, and that's where the contaminated soil was put years ago. EPA is continuing to monitor the plume. We talked about the plume from the Bishop Tube site earlier, and they're continuing to monitor the groundwater contamination and the extent of the plume to this day, and they will continue to do so. So I'm not quite sure what you're asking. The portion where the data center is planned to be built, that is not the cap. EPA has said they've seen the data center plans and that the data center plans will not negatively impact the selected remedy. So I can't say whether it's clean, not clean,
Okay.
good, bad, indifferent. We have been in communications with EPA. EPA has been communicating with our residents and interested parties, which is good. Our consultants, who you heard from earlier, are our consultants for this matter. They've also been in touch with EPA, and we'll try to update people as best we can on our website.
Okay. Well, I guess it's my opinion that Greenfig has attempted to deceive the township, including you guys, about the state of the Foot Mineral site. I think it started in 2023 in an environmental assessment packet that they sent to you, and there they stated that the Foot Mineral site has been remediated and taken off the national priorities list, the EPA national priorities list. It has not. It has never been taken off. They've had several other documents since, and by the way, this predates their 2024 approval. They have other documents that make this same lie. That they have actually continued that falsehood even up to the April 14th Board of Supervisors meeting. On a PowerPoint there, they talked about the ex-Superfund site and what a good use the data center was of this ex-Superfund site. Now, later in that meeting, you, Tony, actually asked them specific questions about, what does EPA think of this site? And finally, they had to drop their deception that this is an ex-Superfund site. They had their environmental representative, Jennifer, you might remember, who spoke about it for a while, and she assured us, okay, it is a Superfund site, but, and there is lithium in the groundwater, there is contamination, but she said the groundwater is contained and protected. I was curious about that. I emailed the EPA remedial project manager, and she sent back, and I asked, is it contained? And she replied, no, the groundwater is not contained. Scott, you asked a question about, can we get assurances for wells that are like 2 miles away, or private wells safe? Can we get any assurances? Jennifer and it's actually EPA remedial project manager mentioned a 2024 5-year review. In that review, it actually says that there are monitoring wells, you call them, and there's the farthest monitoring well is 8,300 feet down gradient from the cap site. This is almost 2 miles. That far away, there is contamination far in excess of the EPA cleaning goals. So that's another deception to your face. She does, maybe a forthcoming remark would be, yes, there are no assurances to be had, right? So you have been deceived time and time again. Now, I don't know if the deception, if it actually did deceive you, but it was attempted. It attempted to deceive me. It attempted to deceive everybody else here to lessen opposition. So this is bad faith action on the part of an applicant, and bad faith action can actually void vested rights, the vested rights to build. So I am hoping that you guys will refuse to sign whatever signatures, like the building permit that you have left to sign. I'm hoping that you can reverse your March 10th and March 11th letters that you signed, and that you can actually take your duty seriously.
At this point, I appreciate your comment. Time allotment is up.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Tim Caban, 1050 West King Road. I'm here to talk tonight about governance and what appropriate governance is in our township, and that you should care about the process that should be equal no matter who's speaking before you, whether you like them, whether you dislike them, whether you agree or disagree. I'm going to quote from the April 14th hearing that was held in Penn State Great Valley. And this is without regard to who is mentioned in here or whether I agree with them or not. This is about process. And I stipulate everybody here is a nice person. I've spoken with Steve Brown and Scott and Peter before. I've never had the pleasure to speak with Clinton. I'll stipulate that you're all nice people. But ultimately, it comes down to our actions. At 2/17/24, Mr. Schneider. As I said, my name is Andy Schneider, and I'm an attorney, and I've lived in Malvern Hunt for the last 20 years. For the last month or so, I spent every spare minute. At that point, the slides appear on the screen that's facing you guys as you sit there at Penn State Great Valley. I'll continue on. You get, he starts talking later on. He says, a solicitor from 2018, present company excluded. Present company excluded is a big part of the problem we're having right now. In recent meetings and in reading transcripts, emails, and text messages that people have received from right-to-know requests, you can see some of our township solicitors spoon-feeding their witnesses and carrying their water, not you, Miss Kearney, and not you, Mr. Crotty. Take a look at slide 2. As he says that, slide 2 appears on the screen before you. Mr. Schneider continues. He says, this is from a 2018 zoning hearing that kicked off this 8-year run of things. This slide is one of our lay people, zoning board officer neighbors, doing his darndest. And Ms. Kearney interjects, and she says, Mr. Schneider, we and then goes off microphone. It's indistinguishable. And then the audience says something, and then she says clearly on the microphone, yes, I understand that, but we're looking forward and we can't see anything. Mr. Lambert says, can you forward it to? Mr. Schneider says, I can email it to you. I mean, were you able to see theirs? Mr. Lambert says, ah. And then Mr. Fixler says, you're good. And then he continues speaking. The reason I'm mentioning this is because by the solicitor, Ms. Kearney, saying that she cannot see the slides, when you have the slides visible to you on the desk, Ms. Kearney is lying to the audience. And I don't appreciate that, and I don't think that that is an equal process to treat everybody the same. And further, when you all sit up there and don't say anything about that, you become part of the lie. And I'd like to know why you're employing a solicitor who lies to the audience, who are all residents that you're supposed to represent. Why do you pay her one dime? Because it's wildly inappropriate. Answer? Any answers?
I had a question. I believe at that point in time, and you can go back and look at the video, I think someone actually came up and moved the screen, because I was sitting right here, Tim, and it was literally over here, and when the slide came up, someone came up to move the screen closer so that that Ms. Kearney could see. It wasn't, I don't think there was anyone lying. I think literally she could not see it. Someone had to move it closer. It came up, walked up, and moved it. I just want to be clear.
That's fine. So everybody can look at the video. Thank you, Clinton. I appreciate that.
I appreciate it from memory.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Everyone can look at the video and decide whether they agree with me or not. At the video I was watching, I did not see somebody move the screen, but that's just me. So I welcome everybody to watch the video and come up with your own judgment. And I'd like to thank, is your name Brittany, because you appear to just do an equal process to keep doing this live.
So I moved the screen.
Okay.
Or could not see the screen. Ms. Kearney also cannot hear very well. So
Okay.
the screen did need to be moved, and the portion of the meeting we're talking about, I know for a fact we did that portion. So it was a visual issue. If you're watching from home, you probably didn't see me get up and move the screen. If you were in the room, you saw that.
Okay.
All right, thank you for your comment.
Thanks. We can't be lying to the people at all.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I think I've come before you so many times that I've come to know all of you. So I hope you're having a good evening. Well, so today I wanted to talk not about...
Although we're familiar, we still need your name.
Oh, I'm coming to that. Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the principled progress, that we need to have in this capitalist society, which we're all part of, right? So my name is Srini Titali. I live in East Whiteland Township in Melbourne Hunt, so I stand before you not today as just a taxpayer, but also as a concerned citizen who believes in the potential of the community that we have. All of these people that have been coming and standing in front of you have been talking about this in a very educated, very driven way, trying to bring light to the points that you may not see that we are trying to help you to see, right? So what are I have 4 points here. I'm not going to go longer, and please let me know if I do. But there are 4 points here. One is the invisible toll. All of the people that came before me, particularly the people that spoke about Bishop too, that really moved me. I'm a medical doctor, who lives in this community. And the reason it moved me was because if we don't do anything about this data center, we're going to talk about it in the next 5 to 10 years in the same way that they spoke about Bishop too, with the cancers and all of those things. So I'm not going to bore you much more along with the health effects because I've presented evidence to the township. We've talked about it before. But I guarantee you that that's exactly what we're going to talk about in 5 to 10 years. You do not want that to be your legacy as Board of Supervisors. So the other thing, this keeps fading, sorry. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the smart development. Growth by design, development is not a zero-sum game at all. We can have growth, but it must be rooted in proper planning. This means using geospatial analytics to analyze the sound and to ensure that these facilities not are encroaching on residential zones. I'm telling you, literally about 400 feet from our entrance is the entrance to the data center. You cannot say that's not encroaching on our residential zone. It is encroaching on our residential zone. And it is going to cause a lot of these health effects that we've been talking about endlessly to all of these kids that live there, and including the senior citizens that come and live there. There are a lot of people. And then the Toll Brothers community is 55 plus. There's going to be retired people over there. And then there's like other schools and everything else that are around there. So it is really not a zero-sum game. The other thing is, let's talk about compassionate capitalism. We're not against development. I've spent most of my career in corporate America. I actually worked as a head of neuroscience at Takeda Pharmaceuticals, and I've been working in this particular area for a long time in pharmaceuticals, right? So what does that mean? It means that profit and purpose can coexist. One of the things that we've done as employees in corporate America is that we questioned our leadership on what are you doing for the society? What are you doing for the community? So it's just not extracting the resources, but it is best when it creates value for all stakeholders, including the neighbors who live across the fence. We're looking for partners to invest in our infrastructure and our environment and not entities that exploit them. The reason they're going to exploit, you might ask, why are they exploiting? How are they exploiting? They're exploiting the substation. We haven't heard that they're going to build a substation. They're exploiting the water. And, with all of the pollutants that they can actually create in the air and water. Last point, sir, Mr. Lambert. The ethical mandate of leadership. Finally, to our representatives, all of you, leadership is a sacred trust, is a very sacred trust. The ethical standard for public official is simple. You must serve the best interests of the entire community, not just the loudest or the wealthiest voices. I hate the fact that I'm standing here talking about that against the wealthiest voices while I have worked for corporate America. This is just wrong what they're trying to do, to build across a community a 1.6 million square foot data center. They went back to that. There is no checks and balances here. Oh, we're going to just build that. Okay, go build it. No problem. This sort of thing. I mean, you can't do that. We expect you to... just 1 second, sir. One last point. We are in the 250th year of our independence. And in Philadelphia, this nation has begun in Philadelphia. We expect you to remind us why Philadelphia was the first capital of a nation that built on the idea of representation. So I'm asking you, please represent us now on this issue. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aniga Capsey, and I live in Malvern Hunt, and I'm in college right now studying public health at the Johns Hopkins University. So today, we heard our fellow residents here speak about Bishop Tube and the long-term contamination that it has caused. Now let's fast forward some 20 to 30 years into the future, and let's look at Sweetsford Road at the site of the planned data center. Will we be seeing similar issues of air pollution, water consumption, noise pollution, and the ecosystem getting destroyed? We already know that the site of the data center, which is the Foot Mineral Company, is an ex-Superfund site. And we heard people speak about that today. So it is a current Superfund site. Considering that, let's be smart and take a preventative decision to avoid another case like Bishop Tube. Think of the younger and future generations who will have to deal with the toxic particle matter emitted from the data centers, the higher energy bills, the possible water shortages, and a reduction in local wildlife. There's tons of research on the negative impacts of these data centers for both humans and the environment, So why would we want to do this to our township? Please reject the 2024 plan or any proposed data center for that matter of fact. Thank you.
Tony Giannino. I'm a resident of Malvern Hunt. Thanks for having us here this evening. First, I just wanted to thank the board for the appointments to the Curative Amendment Working Group. I really appreciate the honor and I take the responsibility seriously. I'm ready to work with you guys along with our colleagues or my fellow constituents here to shape a sustainable future for East Whiteland Township. Despite of that, and looking forward into the long-term view of our township, I really think that we can't put past what it's really important that this working group doesn't take the place of, and it doesn't take the place of your immediate duty to us, the residents. We know that the court order issued yesterday that the township now has until May 19th to explain why the Green Fig project shouldn't be stayed. While attorneys handle the legal date confusion regarding the 2024 plan, I want to talk about the reality of the families in Malvern Hunt and across East Whiteland Township. The reality is that we're looking at an approved plan that your own FAQ is saying that is an obsolete design. I've looked into this, it's beyond obsolete. It's a 2024 based on a 2021 technology. By the time it's built in 2028, it's going to be a disaster for our township. No one's going to want to be there. No amount of money to our school district is going to take the place of this enormously outdated building that's going to be outdated not only when it's built, but beyond that into the future. There's no plans for it in the future to remove once we realize what I'm noticing and what the hyperscaler investors are not investing in is in a site exactly like this. That plan is not only obsolete, it's going to be using 3 million gallons of water a day. I don't know if anyone can put that into perspective. I had no clue what 3 million gallons of water a day was looking like. It's enough to supply 10,000 homes. Do you guys know how many homes are in East Whiteland Township? About 5,000. That's twice as much. So this one site alone is going to be using on a daily basis twice as much water as the entire township of East Whiteland. Just want to put that in perspective. Additionally, while I was going through the agenda for tonight, I saw on the agenda item 7, which we haven't discussed yet, but it talks about approving an $8,300 infiltration testing for Backton Hill Park. And I just found it really ironic that we're trying to use taxpayer funds across the street from a site that we're trying to put millions of gallons of water out of our water table, and we're trying to test what's going into our water table from a park across the street. So we're worried about water, but not the overall consumption of 3 million gallons per day. It's just it's a paradox that I can't really square in my head. We're concerned about some things, but not an elephant in the room that's across the street. So now, while I'm honored to be part of the solution moving forward, we sit at a crossroads tonight. We can't stand for a better future with one hand behind our back. We're looking at this obsolete water hog that's going into our township. And it's a project like none other that's been put in front of you guys in the past. I appreciate the thought process of putting in the curative amendment and recognizing that what we had in the past is not valid. It's not valid then, it's not valid today, it's not valid in the future. But I want you guys to realize that everyone here, we're not just names on a legal brief. Like you mentioned, who will be going to court against you guys and against what's happening. But we're not just names on that piece of paper. We're families. We're the residents that you represent. We're trying to fight for not only currently ourselves, but our future our children and grandchildren that everyone's mentioned multiple times. I look forward to bringing my perspective and that of our township to this curative team. But most of all, I look forward to seeing you guys in court on June 4th. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Harrison, 66 Malin Road. What criteria did you use to select the citizen representatives to help with the curative amendment?
We simply asked we asked for letters of interest and
No, I mean, how did you decide when you got those letters of interest? How did you choose the 3 particular people? Like, I want this guy because blank.
I thought it was
You know, it's possible.
Well, yeah, I think Tony
I
was
don't think I'm
selected
gonna
for, I think Tony was
comment on
selected for his
I don't
good
think I'm going to
looks, but-
comment in a public meeting about my logic of my decisions.
Yeah, and so here's the other thing I want to say.
I mean, they were all very qualified. We couldn't take all of them, and we chose what we thought were the best.
Right.
I mean, it's as simple as
Right.
that. I mean,
Are
I
they all
don't know
three
how
white
much.
men?
What's that?
Are they all three white men?
The applicants were all men.
Did you choose all white men? Okay, so the other thing I want to say is I am a simple girl, and like I've tried really hard to figure out what you guys have been doing, why you did it, when you did it, whether you had to do it or you were just advised to do it. And ultimately, I'm naive, but I kind of want officials that I helped elect to want me to know what you're doing and why. I want the officials to actively pursue letting the people know what you're doing and why. And I don't feel we've gotten that. And I also want officials to have the courage to do the hard right thing. And I don't think we've gotten that either. And, you know, Katie Muth said it. She's like my new hero. Do you want to be sued for doing the right thing? Or do you want to be sued for doing the wrong thing? And I understand there are many perspectives about what the right thing is, how you define that. Is it what your counsel advised? Is it what you think is you have to do so you don't get sued? But ultimately, the right thing for you folks is protecting us. And I don't think we've seen that either. So, thanks.
Okay, my name is Karen. I'm from Malvern Hunt. Two comments. First, I just wanted to say that I agree with Tim. I've never really listened to the township and come to meetings until this whole thing with the data center, so I'm learning a lot. But I have felt lied to not only that time with Bernadette, not lied to, but like something was just fishy, like they were trying to silence Andy. But the other time too was, and I may not have this exactly right, but there was a time when a resident got up and was talking about the fines with the data center and how the data center people will be able to pay these fines. And I don't know whether it was Calagreco or Josh Rabina who said, oh, no, we can't, we'll get thrown in jail, or something about getting thrown in jail, right? And then later on, another wise resident from the township got up and said, you don't get thrown in jail. You only get thrown in jail if you don't pay your fines. You don't get thrown in jail if the noise is too loud. And in that room was the solicitor and other people from the township who I don't understand all your jobs, but somebody knew that that guy was lying to us, and no one from the township stood up and corrected him. And then I felt that we were being lied to again. So that's just my first comment. My second comment is I have emailed you all, and of course, I really haven't gotten an answer. Are you going to use Ginny as a consultant? Ginny has stood up for this community. She's on the Food and Water Watch. She's an environmentalist. She works for West Whiteland Township, and she has the background, and they're doing their curative amendment. When Julie Ferris on the call for the curative amendment suggested her, I believe it was Catherine who made a note of it. So here we are today. Is Ginny going to be a consultant? Yes or no?
She is not an East Whiteland Township resident and is not on the curative amendment team.
I realize she's not one of the 3 members, but you also have the guy from Swarthmore that you keep using for the noise instead of Sheeran, which is crazy. But so can you not use Ginny as a consultant?
A consultant, like payer. Are all your consultants from East Whiteland Township?
No.
So I'm asking in good faith, because you guys say, you know, you want to listen to the people. Why can we not? Oh, we're going to go. So I'm not going. Is that not? We can't discuss that. Can we use Ginny as a consultant as we develop this curative amendment? She has experience both environmentally and in how townships work, and she's doing one for West Whiteland. You can see the people of the community trust her, and you won't put her on. You won't use her. Oh, right. I forgot that.
Is she a consultant? I'm just curious. Is she actually? I don't know.
Well, she offered her services that night. She said she would be willing to do it, and I'm not even. I shouldn't
I'm just
speak
asking.
for her.
Just curious. Like, is she an actual consultant? Like,
Well, she works for
somebody you
Food and
hire?
Water Watch, and she so she goes all around Pennsylvania and helps with these data centers. So she has a lot of knowledge. And if you want to try to rebuild some faith for this community that's flailing, you need to use Ginny.
I think we can take it under advisement and we will let you know.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kelly Donia, 10 Corbin Drive. And I'm sorry I'm late. I was on another call about data centers. And there's a lot of bad stuff going on that's even worse than what we're going to be seeing here in East Whiteland. I've stood before you and I've really given you a lot of respect, and I gave you the benefit of the doubt for a long time. And I think that time is over. And I think your community feels as if you're not serving them. And I think we're on the verge of trying to serve ourselves, right? I'm beyond disappointed. And I want to tell you that when you came out on the website and posted about accepting applications for the curative amendment, and you said that those that couldn't attend in person need not apply between the hours of 12:30 and 2:30. We work. I pay taxes. How dare you? How dare you? So I didn't apply. And now you have, I hope you have some people on there. I know Tony. I know he's going to do a fantastic job. But you really limited the feedback that you could have gotten. And it's time to do the right thing. And if you are feeling that you're doing the right thing, then for God's sakes, talk about it. And don't hide behind your lawyers. If you are doing the right thing in your mind, have courage in your conviction. And you know what? If you start to communicate, your lawsuits, at least from the community, would go down. We have no other choice but to file actions against you. We just have no other choice. This is not the America that I believe in. That's it.
Yeah, I just want to say that this working group that folks were named to this evening. It's going to meet on a weekly basis, and it's going to publish, whatever they're doing will be published for the public to see and comment on. So you'll be able to follow along, you'll be able to comment, and you can email us, you can comment through the representatives of that group, you can call us. So that's how everyone else who's not going to be on a member of that group can participate.
Hi, I'm Namita Capsi and I'm from Malvern Hunt. I have a question about the megawatt that Sentinel will be using. On their existing plan right now says 300 megawatts. Is that right? Do all the supervisors agree? And Mr. Brown, do you agree with that?
I'd have to check their website, but I believe you're correct.
But yeah, I mean, it's 300 megawatt, right? But on their website, the Sentinel's website, this is not stolen from me, and I have a picture of that. It says Sentinel is developing a 100-acre parcel just outside of Philadelphia for deployment of 300 megawatt with immediate availability. I believe it's across Malvern Hunt. Expansion to 600 megawatt pending. So this was what is shocking all of us who were reading, and are you guys aware of that? That they're saying expansion to 600 megawatts is pending. So what is going to happen? This is what Andy had said long back, that these people, once they come in, they're just going to take over everything. They're going to spread like a virus, they're going to spread like a mushroom, I don't know what, like a wild thing, and then they're going, why do they have on their website saying pending 600 megawatt? 300 itself is already more than what the entire Chester County residences use. So if you are not aware of this, then you need to be aware of this. That is why I am not sure if I should be able to ask you anything about Sentinel Fig today, but I thought everybody should hear this, that they are having a pending expansion of 600 megawatts.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's something you can easily find on their website. It says locations, and it's been on there for a while. It's something that they're not changing. That's good.
Thank you again, Richard Wall, 8 Westgate Circle. I'll be brief. I'm preparing a legal memorandum to submit to the supervisors of the township, and I want to prep you for the conversation that we're going to be having. It's really, really important. The reason that the amended land development plan was a ruse and was not acceptable under Pennsylvania law, according to the NPC and the Supreme Court and the Commonwealth Court, was because an applicant cannot submit a plan that's substantially different from the plan that was approved by the Zoning Hearing Board. The Zoning Hearing Board, as you know, is granted judicial authority, and the case law is clear that neither the Planning Commission nor the Board of Supervisors can usurp that authority to treat those zoning board members as essentially judges, although they're not lawyers. They have the final decision, and there's a 30-day appeal date. That's where the vested right comes in. That vested right is waived by ab infinito if, in fact, there was a due process violation that occurred from the process of the applicant going before the zoning board up to the Board of Supervisors. So therefore, it was a comment, you had 2 decisions to make at the last hearing. You had 1. You could not approve the amended land development plan because that included documentation that was not submitted in the record at the zoning hearing board and therefore was not available for public review and scrutiny. 908 of the MPC states that objectors, which are residents and taxpayers, have a right to scrutinize and review all the documentation upon which the applicant relies for their burden to show undue hardship. It also applies to all the variances. The documentation that Green Fig Sentinel submitted, disguised as an amendment land development plan, was a new development plan that had to go back to the zoning hearing board because the documentation that they were relying upon was not entered into the record, and the 8 exhibits in the 2021 zoning hearing board decision which the Board of Supervisors ultimately later approved with your resolution. My concern and what I ask you to do is to be aware of the fact, as Tony talked about, I suspect that they're going to attempt to present to you a completely different development plan that's not consistent with the 2021 approval by our zoning hearing board. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania and the Commonwealth Courts have said that the Board of Supervisors can approve a zoning hearing board decision as long as it's, quote, substantially similar, unquote, to the plan that was approved by the zoning board. That amended land development plan was not substantially similar. It was materially different. What the applicant failed to realize in their recent comment is they focus only on the square footage, but its footprint. But here's the other issue. In 2021, Sentinel was not a partner with Greenfig, right? So the information that Sentinel is now using to forward their development for this data center was not available in 2021 for me or anyone else to review in order to make an informed decision to assert standing, which would be necessary for us to then engage in the process of due process and be an objector, right? So I've done my research. I'll wrap up. I've done my research. The 2021 plan, Mr. Rubino told the truth. It's obsolete. And what we need to do as a team, as a community, because you're community members as well, is we need to investigate, scrutinize, and make sure Greenfig is transparent in every piece of documentation they've used, because if it was not one of those 8 exhibits, they cannot use it if it's considered by the courts to be evidence of the development. And I believe, if you look at what a CPU is and a GPU, I'll wrap up with this, what they proposed in 2021, and remember, Greenfig wasn't there. With all due respect to Charlie, he had no clue what he was talking about when he made that presentation, because a CPU is a data processing center, office technology use. What they're gonna do now is high-intensity industrial use, utility-scale infrastructure with tremendous pressure, pounds per square foot, and a whole list of structural differences that, to conclude, would violate the requirement that the final plan is substantially similar to the approved. And Mr. Lambert, when I spoke to you after the meeting, I said, I'll get you that memo. I'm not a land use lawyer. It takes a little longer. I know I'm right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy Schneider, 14 Corbin Drive. This message is for the people on Zoom and some people here. I assume some of you have seen the movie Braveheart. This is my metaphorical William Wallace moment in a call for citizens to take legal action. Many of you have done the legwork, poring over documents and trying to convince these guys of the moral, ethical, environmental, scientific, financial, and medical reasons how and why our so-called leaders and their advisors are failing us on a hyper scale. This coming together as citizenry has been great to be a part of. But it's not working. It is not working. They claim that they hear our concerns, but they don't answer questions. They sit there, they smile at us, they turn to their solicitors and say nothing. They have provided zero explanation for why they approved plans in March and did not have the courage to tell us. They didn't announce it at the meetings. They did not post it on their website. We only know about it because I stumbled upon it. Dumb luck. And that was 3 weeks after it was recorded. Now, I have heard from many passionate residents, and I have heard from lawyers who are residents, and I have heard from lawyers who work for residents on unrelated matters. There are so many good and valid legal challenges out there, but they are meaningless unless you people on Zoom or you people here take them to the courthouse, and they know it, and they are counting on your inaction. Now, on behalf of my dear friend of 15 or more years, Shiva, I have filed 2 legal challenges against the township, and I hope to file another, but I cannot cover all bases myself. And I need to be clear, I do not represent Malvern Hunt, and I do not represent East Whiteland Township residents at large. Legally speaking, it's just Shiva and me against the Board of Supervisors, the Zoning Hearing Board, the 4 township lawyers that we pay for, as well as Sentinel's 4 lawyers. Now is the time for you and you to take legal action. And the window of opportunity is quickly closing, and I mean days, not weeks. Many of you have expressed a genuine and heartfelt gratitude to me. I appreciate that. I really do. It motivates me and inspires me. And it's a reminder of how important this is. But unfortunately, thoughts and prayers are only good for my feelings. They do not achieve results. We need more legal action if we want to improve our chances of tangible results. If you are not capable or inclined to pay a lawyer, some of you are more than competent and informed to file something on your own behalf. The internet is an amazing resource. The Sunshine Act was designed for the average citizen to demand accountability. I too was very reluctant to
Andy,
take legal action.
Time is up. Thank you for your comment.
A wise neighbor and friend said to me, embarrassment is short-lived.
Andy,
Regret
time
can
is
last a lifetime. Thank you.
There's somebody online that's been waiting the whole entire time, so I'm going to put Megan Reese on.
Hey, thanks, Donna. I appreciate that. Megan Reese, 175 Lap Road. Yeah, there's so many things I want to say, and I didn't plan anything, but just listening to everyone. I was on the EAC board 20 years ago when all of this started happening, right? And so I went to the EAC board meeting last week, and it was very clear with the people who are on that, that they haven't been communicated to, other than Mike. Are we there? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So other than Mike, that I see him there. So he's now on the task force, but it was clear that the communication between the EAC, the Environmental Advisory Council, and the zoning, the planning, the Board of Supervisors, I understand their advisory council, you don't have to, all of that, but they were very much in the dark on this. So when people talk about lying and all that, I can get it. And I think I even surprised myself when I spoke out earlier about the Great Valley, center, the corporate center thing, because I don't feel that it's necessarily we're being taken care of. I understand there's certain things that we need to do as a township, and development is one of them. But by coming on board with this data center and against it, I've really seen some behaviors that are quite awful. And one of them was in a meeting in February for the planning board. Immaculata was asking for solar, so I stood up and asked about batteries. I asked one of the engineers about Greenfig about batteries, and he said, "Oh no, we're not using batteries." The last meeting at Great Valley, Penn State, one of the gentlemen stood up and said, "Are you using batteries?" And he said, "Yes." So that's a lie, right? I asked at the meeting in February, is the EAC board been, contacted? And they say, no, we don't have to. And then another meeting, somebody stood up, or they said, yes, we are going to contact them. When we went last week, they were never contacted. So it's hard to trust what you're saying, and to sit back and be like, oh, because I'm pretty much I'm a positive person. I believe in good people and they'll do great things, but I'm not feeling that right now. And I'm feeling that the fact that we have to go into a lawsuit with our township is just it's awful. I really think you guys should, stop the whole thing and do what's best for your residents in the sense of health. I mean, we could go environmental. We could go health, we can do all of that, but like all around the board, this is just a really, really bad idea. And I just urge you guys to do the right thing, do what you can. And I'm down with, starting any kind of legal action. I have a lot of time on my hands. So, Andrea, we could talk.
Thank you for your comment. Okay. At this point, we will close general comments. We're ending public comments at this point in time. Okay.
Microphone.
Oh.
Another microphone.
Yeah, I'm Namida Kapsi from Malvern Hunt. Just wanted to mention that my husband and I, we went to the Gunkel Mill tour on May 3rd. Really enjoyed it, and thank you for the great work that that you guys and the commission did. There, I realized on that day that there is so much history in East Whiteland that we do not know. We've been driving across buildings and roads for the past 24 years without even realizing there is story to it. So instead of approving data centers on Superfund sites, why don't we all work, our township, put our money in creating some heritage information center or a nature preserve, something where we get educated about where the rich history that we live in, because history teaches a lot for us to move forward. And then there are the whole Great Valley School District is over here. So it's going to be such an educational and informational source for all of us to enjoy and cherish. Just that small Gunkel Mill, we had it was just me and my husband, had loved it, had spent an hour there. So I would encourage us to do more for that than environment draining, toxicity producing data centers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Moving forward on the consent agenda, we'll read these items. If you have any questions. Approve the meeting minutes from April 8th, 2026. Ratify the payment bills in the amount of $1,048,018.63. Accept the treasury report. Approve an IT contract with Go2 Tech. Accept the Gilmore proposal for $9,750 for Down East Park survey. Approve the Gilmore proposal for $8,300 for Backton Hill infiltration testing. Approve the payment application from Flyway Excavating for the Stream Bank project for $107,545.74. This would result in the final payment. Approve parking license agreement with Trigid LLC, aka New Market Group, for permission to park vehicles on 1 County View Road for Valley Creek Park events. Approved touring contract with Shakespeare in the Clark Park for performance on July 24th for the amount of $2,000. And to ratify the Tahoe outfitting costs not already approved on the April 2026 meeting for the amount of $8,492 and 92 cents. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a question on the IT contract with Go-To Tech. There's no price tag on this, and I'm not familiar with that. Does anybody have background on that?
Dave Brady?
Okay. Did you want me to do it, or do you want to do it? Okay. We previously discussed this with the board earlier in the year. The township's been looking to make a change from All Covered, our current provider. So this is just a replacement of that. And actually the cost isn't on there because it's going to be dependent on the number of licenses that we end up needing. So they have to do an analysis, and then ultimately, based on how many licenses we need, that'll be the final cost. But I can tell you, based on the proposal that they provided for us, it is less than we're currently paying. So that's why it's represented that way.
But there's no number here,
No,
which is
because
irresponsible to approve a blank check.
understood. This was really not on here for the monetary component of it, more for the switch in professional services.
Okay.
Peter, we pay I think it's approximately $20,000 a month currently. So this
That's not
will
my
be
question. I'm just
No,
wondering where we're having to pay.
Yeah.
That's in front of us.
Yeah, this will be something less than that.
Okay, thank you.
Well, then I'd amend to approve the IT contract with the Go-To Tech not to exceed current monthly charges. Agreement with that, if you'd like to make
That
a
sounds
motion?
good. Thank you. Would you like me to make a motion, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the the May 13th, 2026 consent agenda as read.
Second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can I actually ask a question on that? So you said not to exceed the monthly charges. Do we need to put that in the motion? Because you made the motion, Peter.
I was going off of Scott rereading that line, so I don't know if I defer to Bernadette on that.
I didn't catch it, I apologize.
That's all right.
Well, Scott made it.
reread the one line of the consent agenda as the approved IT contract with Go-To Tech to not exceed the monthly charges of $20,000, and I approved the consent agenda as read because he had read it, and I guess Donna's questioning if I should have noted Scott's amendment.
But I think Peter said he motioned for the consent agenda as read.
I didn't hear him say that, so okay. All right.
Yeah.
If you did,
All right.
okay.
Good
I'm
clarification.
not sure that you did.
He did.
Meeting concluded.